Good evening, everyone, and I'm FPS Chasley. Welcome back to my tutorial series. This is part 2. In this episode, we will be covering radio ESM, radar, and the sail bridge. Alright, so let's get to it. Radio ESM. So, this is where you're going to be getting your radio messages. You'll most likely be getting them from the commander of a fleet, or maybe from another ship in the area. It depends on the mission. Sometimes you might have radio traffic waiting for you at the beginning of the mission. Sometimes your crew members will tell you that you're getting a message as part of a scripted event that happens at a certain point in the mission. All you need to know is you need to get to periscope depth and extend your radio antenna. You can also do by streaming the floating wire. To stream the floating wire, you want to make sure you're about above 200 feet and probably going 2 or 3 knots, and if you fully stream it out, it should be able to get to the surface. You can mess around with it. Where you're going to want to see, you'll be able to see the floating wire. You're going to want to see a good chunk of the floating wire like flat on the surface. That's how you know you'll be able to get a message from it. So that's what you're going to want to do with the floating wire. I might show that at some point, who knows. Well, I know, but I'm not sure if I'm going to show it. So yeah, we're coming up to periscope depth here, and we'll extend the radio mast. And I've made a little tutorial mission here to fully showcase what I want to in this episode, so we'll be able to get the radio message. So I mean, it's a pretty straightforward process, but I'm going to show it. So let's raise the radio antenna here. Should be a good enough depth. We can speed it up a little bit. And as soon as it gets up there, we should get our radio traffic. There you go. You got your first radio message. Yay. So yep, that's all there is to it, to getting a radio message. Nothing to it. Yeah, I got a helicopter here. He'll be this is also a link. So this is another thing that can. I'm glad this actually happens. I was going to forget to mention it. When you bring up your radio mast, you can, as I mentioned in the last video, you can share link data between friendly platforms. So we're currently getting live feed from this helix, KA-27 helix, that shows where he is, what he's doing, and all that good stuff. So if we were to add a manual solution, we could promote this to the link, and then the helix would be able to see that. So if I were to classify this as an enemy sub, the helix might go over and try and investigate it or whatever, but we don't need to be doing that for now, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop it. So we'll leave the radio mast up for now. Let's raise the ESM mast. This is electronic signals measures, and what this is we can detect any kind of electromagnetic radiation, whether it be radar or radio, and we can, it shows us that someone may be radiating radar. We'll be able to get the helix right now. This is signal strength. The higher it is, the closer it is. There's no autocrew for ESM. You gotta do this yourself. But you can see everything on this, from a helicopter to a ship to a surface-to-air missile battery. But the only thing is they have to be actually transmitting. You're not going to see ESM just because a contact is there. They have to be transmitting electromagnetic radiation for you to see them. So yeah, that's all there is to ESM, really. It's not too hard. You cannot really develop solutions with ESM per se. At least for aircraft, you can't develop it for aircraft because you can't get any other data on the aircraft, really. So you can use it for a ship in conjunction with sonar and possibly like visual contacts, but you can't use it for aircraft. So all I like to use the ESM for is to note the fact that aircraft are out there and looking for me. So if you raise your ESM mast, and you see a KA-27 helix, this is a Russian helicopter, you know you're probably going to want to get away from periscope depth and go deep and try and avoid this guy, because that means he's looking for you. So that's all I use it for in terms of aircraft, is just to figure out what's going on up there and who might be looking for me and all that kind of good stuff. So we can go ahead and lower the ESM mast now. We're going to go over the radar right now. So to go to the radar, I believe you have to go to a depth of 5-4 feet minimum, and you have to be under 8 knots or less. I didn't mention this for the periscope and radar and stuff, but you have to be about 8 or 7 knots or less. Otherwise, there's too much. The flow is too much momentum, and it'll just break it. So you need to make sure you're going beneath 8 knots or so. Just to be safe, just go 1/3. That's fine. If you go too fast on the surface, these things will make like wisps around them, like wakes. So it can make it easier for enemies to see you, so you don't want that. They're called feathers, actually. So yeah, don't want that. And for the radar torque, You have to be at 4 feet or whatever it is. It's a certain amount of depth. If you radiate the radar underwater, it will fail automatically, and you will have no more radar for the rest of the mission. But that doesn't really matter because you're never going to be using radar. I can tell you that right now. You're almost never going to be using radar because, well, first of all, just imagine you're on an ASW helicopter looking for a submarine, and the person you're hunting happens to use his radar. Like, you're just going to want to go in and sink him, like, no matter what. So, first of all, it draws a lot of attention to you. And second of all, it draws a lot of attention to you. So just don't do it. It's probably worse than emitting active sonar in terms of people wanting to home in and find you and stuff like that. So I just wouldn't do it. Maybe if you're like, if there's a mission where you have to navigate a harbor, you're probably going to want to use the radar so you can keep tabs on everyone. And if maybe you're feeling really ballsy, like in Red Storm Rising, and you want to be in the middle of the fleet and just figure out solutions really quickly, you might want to raise the radar and then launch some missiles that way, but I would not really recommend it. Alright, so let's go ahead and raise it then. Unfortunately, I didn't put in any surface ships here to classify. I meant to do that, but I can show you what all it entails. So yeah, hopefully this radar mast does not fail right now. Okay, very good. Oh, it actually does pick up the helo. Okay, that's very interesting. Right now it's on auto crew. Did you mark the helo? No. So we can see the helo, and then so over here you have range, scale, kill yards. A quick conversion factor to go from kill yards. Well, first, since this says kill yards, this doesn't mean 60 yards. It means 60 kill yards, which means 60,000 yards. But a very quick conversion factor is to divide by 2,000. So 60,000 kilyards is 30 nautical miles, and that will be coming in very handy. So I'm going to reduce this down to 30 kilyards here. And yeah, he'll show up closer. So we might be able to mark him then.
Radar. I have a new contact. Bearing 095.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know you could actually mark air things on this radar. That's cool. But as you can see on the radar, we're also picking up it'll show land too. So that's kind of nifty if you're like, well, I think we're too zoomed out at this point. We're too zoomed in to show land, so hurry up and get around there. Yeah, it kind of bugs out when you're time-lapsing, but here you go. It'll show land for you too. And then down here, range rings. If you turn these on, it'll show range rings just to give you a decent sense of where things are. So we can see that the helo is between the 5,000 and the 10,000 yard range ring, so that gives us a sense of its direction there. So yeah, there's the radar. I wouldn't worry about any of this too much. I couldn't count the number of times I've used radars on a submarine on my hand for all the years I've been playing this game, so that's not something that's going to happen too much. Yeah, see, we've got a feather going on right now because of some of our sails being exposed. So I'm going to go ahead and expose some more of the sail. We're going to go 50 feet here, and we're going to examine the sail bridge. Okay, I didn't really mention it, but radio ESM is F4, and it's also this icon here. But I mean, if you highlight over it, it should say what it is. It's not doing it for some reason. Radar is F3, or this icon right here. And then sail bridge is F9. You can't get to the sail bridge unless your sail's actually showing. Duh. So it's also this one down here. This the one that conveniently shows the picture of the helo. So yeah, that's kind of what's to come. So it starts out with this little basic view here. This is just the equivalent of just standing up here and looking around. Hey, look, there's our radio mast with this little camouflage thing showing there. So yep, we got our sail up here. We're making a pretty big wake. We're drawing a lot of attention to ourselves in this smooth as glass sea. So we come back to the sail bridge here, and you can also have binoculars. So let's see if we can see that helo. Where is he? I don't know. Oh, but before I forget, the binoculars on this report, bearing relative to the direction the ship is pointing. Normally, all the stuff we've been classifying, this bearing, it's relative to the ship, but it's absolute in the fact that the bearing to this target was determined because it's the line between. Imagine there's like a line between our ship and this helo. That the angle between that and due north is the bearing to this guy. So that's what the bearing is made in reference to, is our ship. But it's absolute because we can change our course no matter what. It'll still be bearing 077. So that's what I mean when I say it shows absolute bearing. When I say relative bearing, it's bearing relative to the direction our ship is pointing. So right now I'm looking at a relative bearing of 0, 0, 0. So that's reflected in the binoculars here. If I go back to this right here, you can see that's the beginning of our wake right here. And if I go to binoculars, it shows it as 359, which is basically 0, 0, 0. So that's a relative bearing. So if we can find that helo, I don't know where he went. There he is. He's at a relative bearing of 302, which is an absolute bearing of 076. So be wary of that. You're gonna have to do some math in your head if you want to try and translate bearings from the binoculars to the to absolute bearings. But you can't. There's no way to mark in the binoculars either, which kind of sucks. But yeah, there's our little helo right there. And the piece de resistance of the sail bridge is this little doodad right here. Yeah, they give you a frickin' FIM 92 Stinger to ward off attack from helicopters. Now, I think the only reason they put this in this game is because in multiplayer you can play against a helo, and if you don't have this, there's no way for a sub to shoot down a helo. So I think that's the only reason they put this in the game, because this wasn't in sub command. And then so someone actually just asked me how you launch this SAM. I'm gonna make sure this guy's in range. The maximum range of the SAM missile is I believe 4.6 nautical miles. So yeah, he is indeed in range. So what you're gonna want to do is I'm sure you're not gonna be able to see this resolution on YouTube, but I don't know if you can see it, but the helo is right there. You might be able to see that dot flashing in and out right there. So what you're gonna want to do is get him just in the reticule somewhere. Down here on this crosshair, if it's close enough, it'll start showing like some yellow and red bars on the side, just indicate like a lock. But you don't necessarily need that to launch him. You just need to have him in the reticule here. So right there he is, and let's go ahead and fire. Right click to fire. It won't let me launch on the friendly. Okay, that's a shame. Alright, well, I showed you what to do, but yeah, it won't let me launch on the friendly helo. I put in a friendly helo because I figured if I put in an allied helo, he'd actually come and like sink me. So if I ever get a chance to record myself playing against an enemy helo, I will do so and show you that, but you get the gist. Get him in the reticule. If he's in range, you'll get some indicators down here to show that you're locked on, and all you gotta do is right click to fire. But I will fire a missile just for the hell of it. Fire one off this way. Is it gonna let me fire one? There you go. And yeah, this thing goes pretty damn fast, and it'll fly out there until it gets right around to this barrier, and then it'll just go right in the drink there. Any second now. There you go. Alright, so it was a little shorter. That's fine. Maybe 4.3 nautical miles, but yeah, there you go. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching this episode of my tutorial series. Next time, I believe we'll be covering the periscope for sure. We'll definitely be covering the periscope, and periscope might be its whole own video. We might cover fire control too, but I'm not sure. I will save sonar and TMA for last, I believe. So I think I will try and do fire control in the periscope next time, though I'm not sure. But I'll figure it out. We'll definitely be doing the periscope next time. So yeah, see you guys then. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.